do unless it's just there because you really couldn't think of anything else to do. And I think here when they do it, it was actually one of the funnier jokes in the movie.
I have to agree with you. Yeah, that was one of those few times where I didn't mind it because it was like, look, are you really going to make us sit through you recruiting every single member of this cast? No, a montage is fine.
Even though I did have a big problem where, when you see Swedish Chef, you see that painting. For some reason, he's like one of the first paintings you see.
Yeah, they're like,
and there is no introduction really into like recruiting him back in. And I'm like, did they forget about the Swedish Chef? And like, there's not a scene later like he's like in the huge group where I'm like, they really made a point to say, hey, we love the Swedish Chef. Yeah. But there was never a moment where you got to interact with his character, or at least them having the Muppets interact with him, trying to bring him back, which I really felt like that was the biggest flaw of this movie. Because if you go back and watch those Muppet movies, I mean, you could tell that group of Muppets is a family. And in those older movies, like you really got a sense of all those characters. They had like a fucking 50 characters, but for some reason watching those movies, you got a sense about what every one of those was about. They all had their moment to shine, and this movie doesn't do that.
Yeah, they really borked that one.
Yes. Damn it.
Now, I know I've never had any great love for Jason Segel. And, I mean, it's his project, so I can't fault him. At the same time, he inserts himself too much into this. And I thought in the beginning, the story of him like growing up with, he's a human, but he's got a brother who's a puppet and having to live like a human and discover like, wait, maybe I am a Muppet. I thought, you know what? I was really with that. I was like, I want to see where this goes. But I thought, okay, at this point, we don't need the two of them. Like if we could have just focused on Walter and his journey to become a Muppet and do all that stuff, that'd have been fine. But having thrown a Jason Segel with the girlfriend plot in there, it's like, this is clogging up the works. We already got to get reintroduced to all these characters again, and we don't need time to cut away to how you are spending time with your girlfriend.
Yeah, that story to begin with didn't really need to be there. At the end of it, you're just like, okay, what was that all about? Really,
I get the reasoning for why they thought it was a good idea, which is that this is supposed to be a reinvention of the Muppets, a Muppets for a new generation, even though it mainly speaks to the old one.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's like this ain't your old Muppets. This is a brand new type of Muppet movie. And, by doing that, they've got these characters who are kind of supposed to be that, the leading you in step by step to the Muppets instead of just plopping you right down in the middle of a pre-established thing, which, like I said, is ironic considering the movie functions like at least halfway on nostalgia remembrances of being ultra familiar with the Muppets in the first place.
You know what, Leon, I agree with you and disagree with you to a certain extent about Jason Segel. The extent that I agree with you and most everybody here is that I don't think that him or Amy Adams really needed. Amy Adams is kind of in a thankless role here. I mean, she's just a tag along. I mean, she has one musical number, but they don't. I mean, come on, this is a leading woman right now. She's got so much charm that her role in this movie that should have been for somebody who, again, as I've said before about other movies, this should have been for an up and coming actress instead of like somebody like Amy Adams. She's just there for her name mostly. And Jason Segel, his character is, he's so happy and cheerful that it makes him kind of a bland character. You're right. You didn't need them. Having Walter would have just been enough. And plus, with Jason Segel being there as a human, you're like, I would like to see more than making fun of this relationship and exploring how this happened. And they just kind of dropped that. They didn't do that much with it that I thought they could have. However, I thought that Jason Segel and Amy Adams kind of, they realized that this was a Muppets movie, and they didn't insert themselves as much as they could, and that's why the movie works for me in certain areas, because it is about the Muppets, and when the Muppets are on screen, I love the Muppets so much that they can fuck up a joke as bad as they want to, and I'm gonna still laugh because they just look funny, and that's what I got. It's mostly the cameos in here that are awkward. And did anybody else notice this? That Disney did now that the Muppets are under Disney, they have been for a while, but especially now, this is a movie where we want it to be, because it's not a CG movie, it's not a movie in 3D. They're trying to keep it simple, and to a certain degree they did, and that works for it. But then Disney has to come in, even if it's just a little bit, with their heavy-handed marketing. There's a billboard for Cars 2 somewhere. When there's fireworks in the sky, you actually see one of them make like a Mickey Mouse symbol, the simple logo of Mickey Mouse's head. And during these cameos, I feel like I'm being forced to like people that Disney wants me to like. Like, they have all these cameos of people like, oh, look, it's Jack Black. Look at this girl. And then Kermit the Frog's like, oh, look, it's Selena Gomez. Ah! And I'm like, she ain't that fucking famous.
And the thing is that, like, as soon as the lights went down, I felt like Mickey Mouse put his hand up my ass because I mean the first thing you see is like we got like 3 or 4 commercials.
At least he was wearing a white glove.
Yeah, there's a reason why he wears that white glove. I hope you're ready for this.
It was latex too.
Yeah, but the thing is, you get bombarded at the beginning of the movie with like commercials for Disney Channel fucking shows, and I'm like, oh, I forget that the fucking mouse owns this shit.
Marketing
and wow,
machine
yeah, because every time that fucking billboard showed up, there was that one fucking kid I was sitting next to who recognized. He's like, Cars 2! Every time that thing came on, I was like, kid, shut the fuck up. All right, I see it. I don't need to hear it.
Yeah, I didn't see it with you guys, but in my screening, Mickey Mouse sat behind me smoking a cigar going,
There was a moment where I expected all the Muppets to be dragged out in chains and Mickey Mouse with a whip, and you hear like,
The weird thing is that like all the Muppet movies have lots of cameos, but they go about it totally wrong here. It's so blatantly like look, Disney kind of owns this guy's soul now. I'm surprised they didn't show Elton John all weary, haggard in the background pushing a mine cart. But the other movies where they would be like a road trip or whatever along the way, the little scenes and the musical numbers would surround themselves around the celebrity appearances, and that would have been great. But here it's like, look, it's this celebrity. Okay, we're gonna go off, and they don't even give him a chance to say anything.
And they also go, hey, look, we just dug up the corpse of Mickey Rourke or Mickey Rooney. Here he is. And look, there's Alan Arkin, a kid, a celebrity, a kid will have no fucking clue about.
Right. Yeah. You know what? The funny thing is, Neil Patrick Harris, of course, is in it at one point, and he goes, "Man, why aren't I hosting this?" And that's what the entire audience was asking.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Jason Segel, I think he's a fine writer, and he certainly has a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of people seem to like him in the industry, but he just does not have a star quality about him.
No, he doesn't. No.
And he's just getting puffier and less star quality as he gets older.
Well, yeah, it's like he's morphing into Vince Vaughn every year.
You know, it's funny you should say that because there's a cast of cameos, and yes, I am reading this off of Wikipedia because I went and looked up the production of this movie, and even some of these people that I don't agree with, I think would have had a better presence in this movie than what they have now. I'm going to read you what they have. They have Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau, Christian Bale, Ben Stiller, Steve Carell, George Clooney, Jack Black, who is in the movie, Mel Brooks, Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, who's also in the movie, Rachel Ray, Bob Saget, Lisa Lampanelli, Jeff Ross, Charles Grodin. I mean, whether you like some of those actors or not, and some of them are kind of a little dated now, but I think that would have been a better cast of cameos than what we have in this movie right here.
It's an odd cast, and it's weird is there's cameos listed of people I don't remember seeing.
I was telling you about this the other day. I was like looking on the Wikipedia, and there's like it's almost like the entire world of acting is on this list. But I'm like,
George
they
Clooney.
all. I
Where
mean,
was Katy Perry?
Animal must have cut them all out. Katy Perry is in the movie.
Where was Danny
She
Trejo?
plays the secretary to Miss Piggy in this. She has an accent.
No,
That was Emily Blunt.
I know, I get them mixed up too.
God damn.
I like how co-host finally gets a name right and it's on the wrong person.
Are you sure though? I honestly thought
absolutely
Katy Perry
sure.
was working for.
And I
Miss
tell
Piggy.
you why, because that's an inside joke, because Emily Blunt is kind of playing the same character that she played from The Devil Wears Prada. It's a joke on that, so.
And if we liked that movie, that would mean something.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
I have to admit, like with Jason Segel in this movie, especially how him and Walter, which I didn't care for the Walter character at all. I thought actually he was a good way of being the audience and like getting us back into the Muppets and nostalgia of it. But as soon as the Muppets are introduced, I mean, you really almost completely forget about Walter, the character, and Jason Segel, because it's like after that,
it's a fucking Muppet.
they do, yeah, they take a seat back. But I'm like, well, you're in the first like 40 minutes of the movie, so it feels really disjointed.
Yeah, there's a point of 20 minutes that Walter's just not even in it. He just like leaves the scene, like on screen, goes, "I'm out of here," and like doesn't come back till the end of the movie.
Which is why I wasn't crazy about him being like, of course, when you see this movie, it's all of a sudden it seems to be all about Walter, but you're like, you know what? I'm sorry, but I don't give a shit.
I'm like you, man. I'm not gonna say I don't like Walter, but I don't trust Walter. I don't know Walter. Walter has not been. I was like, who the fuck are you to just walk up in a Muppet movie and try to be a star? You haven't You haven't earned your Muppet card yet.
Not at all.
Understand? You know what? The Muppets have an attitude though of like, you know what? It is within all of us to be a Muppet. Don't need no fucking midichlorians here.
Muppet Chlorians.
I mean, honestly, they should have. They should have casted that character for Walter as a Muppet. They should have he should have been some fat kid that you just easily forget about as soon as the Muppets, and so the Muppets can go on and make their own movies. And what makes me worried about this film is like, I feel like if I see a sequel, it needs to have this fucking Walter character back again. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, he's just so forgettable.
And then by the third movie,
he'll
take over like Elmo. He'll be like Walter and the Muppets.
I tell him, like, look, I don't care whose dick you're sucking, who's your uncle in this company, but you are not a fucking Muppet.
Thank you, co-host. You haven't earned your Muppet rights yet. Don't make you. He needs to be like, he needs to put his time in the background like all those other Muppets. See, I see Muppets in the background who haven't been, in the forefront yet. Where's their chance? All of a sudden, Walter's gonna come up and be like a star Muppet? No, the hell with that.
And y'all are some haters.
Gonzo's chickens have more fucking presence than Walter. I'm sorry.
And this is not a kid's movie. Those chickens are saying "fuck you," and they're saying "fuck" in chicken. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah.
That was funny though. I was like, that was one of those moments. I was like, okay, that is making me.
When is Rizzo the rat gonna have his fucking moment in the spotlight?
I mean, isn't Gonzo fucking all those chickens? Aren't they?
Yes.
They're his little groupies.
Yeah, Gonzo's a Mormon, by the way, so he can do that.
Well, and maybe that's why they gave him a cameo in this movie, because I'm like, you know what? I haven't seen enough Gonzo in this goddamn movie. How can you have a Muppet movie where Gonzo doesn't have a storyline?
With that huge nose, he can satisfy 2 chickens at once.
And you know what? We're talking so many, like, what's wrong with the movie, and it is because there's been so many people coming out saying how perfect of a movie this is, and I just don't see that with some of the problems that we name, mainly the forced cameos in the marketing by Disney and just some of the clunky storytelling. But look, it's the Muppets, and I have to say that for all of us who might be loving this movie because of nostalgia, I might be kind of jaded because we think we love the Muppets so much like us. This is a great introduction to children who are not familiar